My parents banished my kids to the basement for my brother's baby. By Christmas, they were the ones begging at our door. I closed it without a word. It's devastating enough when your parents tell you how inadequate you are, but it's even worse when they treat your children like nothing more than a number. It was an unexpected act of betrayal that nearly tore us apart. The name is Eudora, and I'm 46 years old. My world came crashing down 2 years ago when my husband Victor and I filed for a divorce following 13 years of marriage. On a personal level, I was crushed. My finances were in shambles. I raised our twin daughters, Oliver and Camelia, who are now 11 years old, while working part-time as a pediatric nurse and supporting my husband Victor, who is a software engineer. I had to face the scary reality of having to maintain us entirely on my own after the divorce, which came with divided custody, low alimony, and other consequences. My folks, Gloria and Carlos, became involved at that point. "Just until you get back on your feet," my dad patted my shoulder and murmured. "Thank you so much." Our bond had perpetually been intricate. While my younger brother Justin was the model sibling who never broke the rules, I took the role of the responsible, rule follower. I enjoyed working with children, so I endured 8 years of nursing school on my own dime. My journey was unassuming, yet unwavering. In contrast, Justin was 33 years old, making 6 figures after dropping out of college to launch a digital company that my parents had backed. The bias had become so embedded that I hardly gave it a second thought. Truly, Oliver and Camelia, my twins, were the most delightful children. Always the artist and builder with a tender heart, Oliver was the one who took the lead. Camelia was my little athlete. She was bold, self-assured, and the first to fight for justice whenever she felt it was necessary. They were thriving in spite of the chaos caused by the divorce and the relocation. Things seemed good when we first moved in together. With the twins now living in the home, my parents turned their office into a bedroom, and I was given the guest room. I was responsible for much of the cooking, helped with the grocery shopping, and enforced decorum among the children. My parents helped with school drop-offs and pickups because they worked 12-hour shifts, sometimes overnight, at the children's hospital. The strategy was straightforward: save away enough money in a year to cover the security deposit and the first month's rent. I was very frugal, working additional shifts and saving every cent I could. Despite the high cost, I was adamant on providing my children with stability once again. Everything changed when Justin and Rachel had their son, Noah. Even though my parents had always been partial to Justin, their response to his baby was totally out of the ordinary. Despite having a 4-bedroom property across town, Justin and Rachel turned the formal dining room into a nursery. They spent a pretty penny on baby gear that would only see action during doctor's appointments. As soon as Justin took a breath, my mom began to back out of her arrangements to help me with the kids. "Your brother needs more support right now," she'd point out. "He's new to parenting." She somehow failed to see the irony of my being a single mom for 3 years. For a while, I made an effort to be sympathetic. The arrival of a new grandchild, their first grandson, was a cause for joy. For a decade, Oliver and Camelia were their sole grandkids. Perhaps the novelty was all they were enjoying. The partiality, which was mild at first, began to build, but I urged my children to be patient by explaining that young Noah required additional care. Christmas presents for Noah were noticeably more costly. Remarks regarding the striking resemblance between Noah and Justin's baby photo, whereas Oliver and Camelia have often been characterized as more like their father than me. Minor things, certainly, but they hurt. I made an effort to make up for it by setting aside quality time for us alone. On my days off, we would either watch movies in my room, or to the park. I went so far as to establish a savings chart on the wall of my bathroom. After promising them just a few more months, I would keep my word. We'll have our own home by Christmas. The stress in the house, however, increased as summer progressed from spring. From the food I gave the twins to when they went to bed, to the amount of screen time they may have, my parents were always finding fault with my parenting choices. Even if they would be tardy to family dinner by hours or cancel at the last minute, Justin and Rachel were perfect. I had to balance keeping the peace at home with protecting my children from knowing that their grandparents were treating them differently. Help from my parents was essential. Even with saving for our relocation, I would not be able to afford childcare. I had saved a considerable amount by the time summer came to a close. According to my calculations, I would have enough money to rent a modest 2-bedroom apartment by November. I reminded myself that I only had 3 more months to be patient. For another 3 months, I will continue to hold my tongue and gently remind my children that we were only visitors. Just 3 more months to go till I see my parents lavish praise on Noah while ignoring Oliver and Camelia's successes. Prior to those 3 months, I had no clue things would deteriorate to that point. In September, things took a turn for the worst when Justin convened a family meeting. Baby Noah, whose outfit likely exceeded my monthly food budget, sat at my parents' kitchen table with him and Rachel. Justin looked at our parents instead of me when he stated, "We're finally doing that major renovation on our house." My mom clenched her fists in excitement. Rachel proceeded by bouncing Noah on her knee and saying, "That's wonderful, sweetie." My father nodded eagerly before I could even grasp what was occurring. He said, "The thing is, we'll need somewhere to stay during the construction. It should only be about 7 to 9 weeks. You'll stay here, of course. We have plenty of room." I coughed out some saliva. Mother gave me a sidelong glance and said, "Actually, we're a bit tight on space already with the 5 of us. Family helps family, Eudora. It's only temporary." And with that, the decision was made. My emotions went unmentioned. The consequences for Oliver and Camelia were disregarded. The fact that I had been informed the same thing regarding our short-term stay, which was quickly approaching 2 years, was not acknowledged by anyone. The following weekend, Justin and Rachel relocated in. Even though he never once offered to assist install the twins' beds, my dad helped them set up a portable cot for Noah. While Rachel's stuff took up an entire closet, I lived out of suitcases for months until I was able to get a little dresser. There was a sudden and startling shift. Out of nowhere, someone told Oliver and Camelia to be quiet while Noah was napping. Their once confined playthings were now deemed unnecessary and relegated to storage bins. After school, kids were allowed to watch television for an hour, but suddenly Rachel's shows were on the screen all the time. After a particularly long shift, I returned home to see Camelia sitting alone on the back porch, her eyes welling up with tears. As I sat down next to her, I inquired, "What's wrong, honey?" "Grandma said I was being too loud with my jump rope," she stated with irritation. But Noah wasn't even sleeping. He was in the living room with Aunt Rachel. She just didn't want to hear me counting my jumps. Oliver was enthused about an art project when he returned home from school that week. He would be participating in a district-wide display as the class representative. My mom pushed him aside as he tried to show her. While I watched my son's expression get red, I resolutely stated, "Not now, Oliver. I'm helping Rachel pick out new curtains for their house." I attempted to contact my parents that evening after the kids had gone to bed. "I understand Justin and his family need help," I said with care, "but I'm concerned about how Oliver and Camelia are being treated. They feel like they're not important anymore." My dad scowled. "They're being oversensitive. Kids need to learn that babies require more attention." "Noah isn't even here most of the day," I complained. "Justin takes him to daycare before work, and Rachel picks him up. Oliver and Camelia aren't asking for attention during those hours." My mom let out a deep sigh. "You always were jealous of your brother, Eudora. I thought you would have outgrown that by now." I fell into a profound stillness. Was it really my impression on them? Not as a caring mother, but as an envious sister. Things just got worse from there. Without my knowledge or consent, Rachel reorganized kitchen utensils, berated the twins' nutritious foods, and left her washing in the washer for days. Without bothering to ask if anyone else had plans, Justin casually invited pals over for watch parties, as if he owned the place. While I was at home one night, I overheard my dad and Justin talking money. "We may have to postpone the renovation schedule," Justin was mentioning. "The contractor found some issues with the foundation." My dad gave me a friendly, "stay as long as you need" response. "This is your home too." Despite helping out around the house financially and taking the lead in the culinary and cleaning duties, I had never been informed that. On the contrary, I was constantly reminded that their assistance was only meant to be transitory and contingent. An early November Sunday meal was the tipping point. All of Justin's favorite foods, made by my mom, were served, and my kids weren't a fan. Oliver asked nicely if there was anything else he could eat, but my mom scolded him he was being rude. "When I was growing up, we used to eat whatever was given to us," she stated with a hint of severity. As time went on, Noah tossed his whole plate to the floor, and the group let out a hearty round of belly laughs. Rachel said, "He's just exploring his world," but she did little to contain the mess. My normally polite youngster even picked up on the hypocrisy. He murmured to me, "Why is it that Noah can throw food but I can't even ask for a sandwich?" My response was inadequate. It was the week that I discovered someone had taken Oliver and Camelia's artwork off the fridge to make place for a schedule for Noah's daycare. In response to my inquiry, Rachel clarified that she wanted the information prominently displayed and that she didn't believe anyone would object if she altered a few items. Eventually, the twins lost interest in playing in the living room or any place else in the house. In their cramped shared bedroom, they sought refuge, knowing that they could exert some measure of control. After school, I began taking them to the library so they could have some quiet time away from the classroom. During a very challenging shift, my coworker Julia observed that I was very stressed out. "Eudora, is everything all right at home?" she inquired. I couldn't help but spill the beans about the entire thing. "It sounds like your parents have created a household where your brother's family is treated as guests of honor, while you and your children are treated as inconvenient roommates. That's not a healthy environment for any of you," Julia observed after listening sympathetically. His words stayed with me. It was her assessment that was accurate. It wasn't until I heard it spoken out that I realized the unhealthy dynamic was so commonplace. I toured the area and contacted a real estate agent buddy that night rather than heading straight home. "I need to get my kids out of this situation," she responded. "Sooner rather than later." Things at home had gone downhill faster than I could have imagined by the middle of November. My parents were very supportive of Justin and Rachel's decision to take over the house. The indefinite extension of their remodeling, which had been originally scheduled for 6 to 8 weeks, was caused by issues that Justin was consistently evasive about. According to the box I discovered in the recycling, my parents had spent roughly $450 on a specialized high chair for Noah, which I discovered one day when I returned home. This is happening at the same time as they were griping about how much Oliver's asthma prescription cost last week, a medication that my insurance only paid for partially. "We want Noah to be comfortable when he eats here," my mom explained. I said, "Oliver needs to breathe." But I couldn't help but sound harsh. As if I were being really unreasonable, my mother gave me the look. "Your father and I are on a fixed income, Eudora. We can't be expected to cover everything for your children." Evidently, it didn't register that I paid for all of my children's costs and contributed to household bills. It also didn't help that Justin and Rachel were both very successful financially. The subsequent occurrence took place while Camelia was honing her clarinet skills in preparation for band class. Just 15 minutes into her game, Rachel barged in. "Can you not do that right now? Noah is trying to nap, and I have an important call in 10 minutes. After apologizing and putting her instrument away, Camelia subsequently broke down in tears and informed me that she had been practicing right before their virtual session. She was now going to be unprepared for her forthcoming review since she had missed it. I attempted to have a conversation with Rachel over it, implying that we could arrange a time to meet. As she answered dismissively, she emphasized that her work calls and Noah's sleep pattern had to take precedence. "Camelia can practice her little hobby anytime." I held back from saying anything I could come to regret by biting my tongue. Camelia's band teacher had remarked on her exceptional talent, and she took great pleasure in her small pastime. In this environment, the most insignificant demands of Justin's family were prioritized over anything my children did. Even Oliver was having trouble. His instructor was worried about his lack of participation and deteriorating marks, so she contacted me via email. Once outgoing and full of life, my kid has suddenly become reserved and worried. He told me he was scared about making a fool of himself at home, which was why he couldn't sleep when I asked him why. "Grandma and Grandpa get mad at us for everything," he said patiently. "But they never get mad at Noah or Uncle Justin or Aunt Rachel." To help fund our getaway and alleviate some of the stress at home, I worked extra shifts. Justin and Rachel appeared relieved to have me gone, while my parents saw it as me avoiding my family duties. At a Thanksgiving dinner in late November, things heated up amongst relatives. Among the many relatives that joined us for the celebration was my Aunt Margaret, who had been nothing but helpful to my family throughout the years. While we were eating, my mom went on an emotional tirade about how smart Noah was, even though he was only 9 months old. According to her, he is already making an effort to stand. Justin was an early walker too. Some children just have that natural athletic ability. Oliver was her next target, as she said. "It's a shame you didn't inherit that trait from your dad." Victor was always athletic, wasn't he? Oliver regained his composure as I watched his face fall. The inference was obvious. It was obvious that Noah's abilities originated from my brother's stronger genetic line, while any good qualities my children had either came from their dad, or were present regardless of my influence. Across the table, Aunt Margaret's worried face attracted my attention. She took me aside after supper. "How long has this been going on?" she whispered. "It's always been this way to some degree," I told him. "But it's gotten much worse since Justin's family moved in." "This is not good for your kids, Eudora," she added, quoting Julia similarly. "They deserve better than to be treated as second-class members of their own family." On the verge of tears, I nodded. "That's okay," I told her. "I'm working on it." Yes, I did. I had been meeting with my real estate friend during lunch breaks in the weeks after my chat with Julia. After perusing numerous rental homes, I came across a charming 3-bedroom house within 10 minutes of the hospital, all while remaining in the same school district. Based on my good credit and consistent employment history, I was accepted even though the rent was at the upper limit of my budget. Oliver and Camelia were the only ones who were unaware that I had signed the lease the week before. I preferred not to raise their expectations until all matters were resolved. Just 1 week from now, on November 1st, the house will be ready for move-in. I had covertly scheduled utilities and ordered necessary furnishings to be delivered on that date. I felt a squeeze from my aunt. "If anything comes up, I'm here to help," she remarked. To her surprise, her words carried more weight than she realized. I've been concerned about this situation for some time. My parents had warned me about being overly sensitive or envious, and I had started to doubt my own views. That the situation was really that horrible was the last piece of confidence I needed, and it came from someone else. As I woke up the following morning, I overheard my father and Justin talking about making some long-term plans. Adding, "The contractor says it could be another 3 months, Justin continued. "And honestly, with the baby, it might make more sense to just stay through the holidays." "You know you're always welcome," my father responded with a friendly greeting. "This is your home." They had informed me my stay was temporary and that I was expected to get my own place as quickly as possible. I wondered if either of them recalled that. If it weren't hurting my kids' feelings, the hypocrisy would have been funny. After supper that night, I broke our weekly routine and took the twins out for ice cream. Getting away from the stressful environment would allow me to spend quality time with them. "I have something important to tell you too," I informed them. "No matter what Grandma and Grandpa say or do, you two are amazing, valuable people. The way they're treating you is not because of anything you have done wrong." Camelia, ever astute, scrutinized my countenance. "Are we going to move out soon?" Her wisdom took me by surprise. "What makes you ask that?" "You've been working a lot more shifts," she informed me. "And you seem different lately, less sad and more determined." From the little lips of infants. I was slow to see the shift in myself, but my daughter had noticed it first. "Just be yourselves for a little while longer," I advised them, still not prepared to spill the beans about my scheme. "Can you do that for me?" I noticed a glimmer of hope that had been absent for far too long in their eyes as they both nodded. Even though Noah's stroller, diaper bag, and a number of toys were dispersed throughout the common areas, Rachel was making a big deal out of the twins' backpacks being in the hallway when we got home. She went on to tell me, "Children need to learn to pick up after themselves," as though she were a parenting expert and I was just starting out. As I assisted the children with their possessions, I forced a tight smile on my face and reminded myself that we would only have to go through this for a short while longer. Little did I know that things were going to get out of hand far faster than I had anticipated. My 12-hour shift was supposed to take place the following Tuesday. The pediatric unit was extremely bustling that day. Even though my lunch break was brief, I managed to check my phone and discovered that Oliver and Camelia had both sent me multiple missed texts. Oliver's message: "Mom, something weird is happening. Grandpa and Uncle Justin are moving our stuff." Camelia's message: "Grandma says we have to move to the basement. This is not fair." Oliver's message: "Mom, please come home. They took all our things downstairs." Camelia writes, "I hate it here. The basement is cold and gross and there are spiders." My pulse raced. It didn't take long for me to dial home. There is no response. Both of the kids' phones were tested. There is no response. At last I said to Camelia over text, "I'll be home as soon as I can. Stay calm. I love you both." My supervisor and I had a conversation about the family emergency. She was really kind, and she even set up coverage for the 4 hours I needed. However, I still needed an additional hour to finish vital paperwork and transfer patients before I could depart. 20 minutes of my life were squandered on the journey home. I was in a daze. Did my parents really relocate my siblings and me to the unfinished, inadequately insulated, and occasionally water-seeping basement? I inhaled deeply as I entered the driveway. I had to take stock of the situation objectively. Upon entering, my worst concerns were validated by the sight before me. With their red-rimmed eyes, Oliver and Camelia were close on the living room couch. Rachel and my mom were in the kitchen, sipping tea as if nothing out of the ordinary had transpired. Neither Justin nor my dad could be located. By the time I reached my kids, I had already questioned, "What is going on?" Camelia leaped to her feet and embraced me tightly. "They stowed away all our belongings in the basement without our knowledge or consent. They claim that we are unworthy of the nice rooms upstairs. Oliver gave a terrible nod. Grandpa said Uncle Justin's family needs more space because they're more important right now. My wrath was boiling over, but I held my tongue for their benefit as I embraced them both firmly. Let me talk to Grandma and see what's happening. Mother hardly raised her eyes from her work in the kitchen. You're out of here early, she noted. Why are my children's belongings in the basement? I inquired simply. Tea was drank by Rachel. We needed to make some adjustments to the living arrangements. Justin and I need a nursery for Noah, plus space for my home office now that my company has gone remote. So you decided to move Oliver and Camelia to the unfinished basement without discussing it with me first? My tone was utter silence. At last, I was able to meet my mother's gaze. It was the logical solution. The children are older and can adapt more easily than a baby. Besides, our other grandson deserves the best rooms. He's here all day while your children are at school. I couldn't believe the nonchalant brutality of her words. My children deserve a safe, comfortable space just as much as Noah does. Eudora, my mom told me not to be theatrical. The basement is perfectly fine. We put their beds down there and everything. The basement has mold in one corner, gets freezing cold at night, and the ceiling is unfinished, I said. Not to mention there's only one small window that doesn't even open properly. They'll manage, my mom stated with more conviction. Family means making sacrifices. It would appear that her conception of family sacrifice only applied to my children and not Justin's. My brother and dad entered the house through the rear door just then. Upon seeing me, my father remarked, "Oh good. You're home. We've made some changes that we need to discuss." I responded with a staccato, "Yes, I can see that," trying not to sound defensive. "You moved my children's belongings to the basement without my permission." Without saying a word, Justin shrugged. "We need the space upstairs. Noah is getting more mobile and needs room to develop properly. Plus, Rachel needs a quiet space for her work calls. And my children need a safe, appropriate bedroom," said I. "The basement is fine," my father answered with a sideways glance. "I put in some extra lights and laid down some old carpet scraps. They should be grateful they have a place to stay at all." As if I were seeing him for the very first time, I just stared at him. I had spent years attempting to win over my biological father, but he had just shown how unappreciative he was of my family. "Oliver has asthma," I reminded them. "The basement is damp and has visible mold. It could trigger a serious attack." "You're overreacting as usual," Justin remarked, his expression betraying his customary frustration. "Kids are resilient. Rachel and I grew up in much worse conditions, didn't we, honey?" Although I was well aware that Rachel had grown up in a wealthy suburbia home with 5 bedrooms, she nodded in agreement anyway. I glanced around at the 4 grown-ups who had taken this choice. There was not an iota of shame or comprehension from any of them. This made complete sense to them. I felt bad that my kids would have to make do with leftovers, but the family of the golden child deserved the best. Oliver and Camelia were waiting nervously in the living room, so I made my way back there. They were so full of faith and expectation that I would find a solution as they gazed up at me. At that very second, a cool certainty regarding the next step crystallized within of me. Regardless of the gravity of the situation, I mustered up a genuine grin and spoke the 3 words that would alter the course of history. "Pack your bags." They appeared perplexed, but I simply gave them encouraging nods. "Believe me," I pleaded. "Pack everything important to you. We'll get the rest later." As I made my way into the living area, my father trailed behind and overheard. "Oh, for heaven's sake, Eudora, stop being so dramatic. No one is asking you to leave." I smiled and turned to him. "No, Dad. You just made it abundantly clear where my children and I stand in this family, and we deserve better." "What on earth are you talking about?" my dad stuttered, while Oliver and Camelia just stared at us funny. "Please continue," I whispered softly. "Go pack your backpacks with your most important things. We'll come back for the rest tomorrow." My mom walked into the living room as they ran upstairs. "What nonsense is this now? You can't just leave because things didn't go your way." With Noah resting on Justin's hip, Rachel and Justin trailed behind. It seems like the whole gang had come for the showdown. "Things are not going my way," I explained in a calm style. "This is about basic respect and consideration, which has been sorely lacking in this household." "We've provided you with a place to live for almost 2 years, my dad proudly announced. "How dare you talk about lack of consideration?" "Yes, you have," I said, "and I have been grateful. I have also contributed financially, done most of the cooking and cleaning, and made sure my children respected your rules and space. But today, you crossed a line. Scoffing, Rachel walked away. It's just a bedroom rearrangement. You're being ridiculously oversensitive. I looked over at her. Is that what you would call it if someone moved your child to an unsuitable space without consulting you first? For that, she was at a loss. My mom really wanted me to believe that the basement was big enough. We raised you and Justin without all these special accommodations kids seem to need nowadays. Mold is growing in the basement, I said again. Oliver has asthma. It's also cold, damp, and has inadequate emergency exits. It is not a legal bedroom by any housing code standard. The way my dad waved his hand was so dismissive. Those codes are just government overreach. So ridiculous it nearly made me giggle. When safety regulations were inconveniencing him, he now saw them as government overreach. However, I had a feeling he would have a different opinion if he were the one being forced to stay in poor accommodations. With a mischievous grin on your face, what direction do you intend to travel? Justin inquired. It's not like you've been saving much. What with your spending habits? The underlying misconception that they all shared was laid bare. Notwithstanding my independence and my ability to support myself, they viewed me as financially dependent and careless. In their minds, I was completely helpless and unable to make a decision or stand on my own. Merely stating, "That is where you are wrong," was my technique. I have been saving since the day I moved in here. I've been working extra shifts and building my emergency fund, and 3 weeks ago, I signed a lease on a house not far from here. I found great satisfaction in the startled quiet. My mom got better first. Were you planning to depart without informing us? She inquired, her voice quivering with an instrument of artificial pain. I was planning to give you proper notice next week, I pointed out. The house isn't available until November 1st, but today's events have accelerated my timeline. You must be kidding, Justin remarked. Where are you going to stay until then? At this point, it is irrelevant to you, I said. The fact is that I had already spoken with Julia at work, who kindly gave me her guest room for a couple of days. There was a disturbing reddening of my father's face. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? By sneaking around behind our backs and then storming out over a minor disagreement. Minor disagreement, I said with astonishment. You moved my children's belongings to an unsafe space without my knowledge or consent. You told them to their faces that they don't deserve the same comfort and consideration as their cousin. That is not minor, Dad. That is a fundamental statement about how you value them. And me. Oliver and Camelia returned to the lower level, accompanied by rucksacks and purses. As Camelia held firmly onto her clarinet case, Oliver possessed his beloved painting materials and the plush dragon he had cuddled with since he was 3 years old. We're ready, Mom, Camelia declared, her voice booming with an intensity I hadn't heard from her in weeks. This is crazy, my mom said. You cannot seriously be leaving right now. I verified, saying, we are. We'll come back tomorrow to get the rest of our things, when everyone has had a chance to calm down. You won't be welcomed back with open arms if you walk out that door, my father said. Despondently, I met his gaze. I stopped expecting that a long time ago, Dad. Suddenly cognizant that what was truly transpiring, Justin advanced. Come on, sis. Let's talk about this rationally. There's no need to make a scene in front of the kids. My children have already been shown exactly where they stand in this family's hierarchy, I told him. There is nothing more to discuss tonight. From the porch, my family watched with expressions ranging from rage to bewilderment as I assisted Oliver and Camelia in loading their things into the car. The truth of my departure was too much for them to bear, because they were so sure of their control over me and my reliance on them. My mom dashed over to my window the second I turned the key in the ignition. Eudora, please, you're overreacting. Come back inside and we'll figure something out. A strong "we'll talk tomorrow" was my response. When I come to get our things. Slightly less angry than before, she inquired. But where will you go? Somewhere my children are valued, I responded plainly before getting in my car and driving away. Oliver and Camelia were gazing back at the house that had been our home for almost 2 years in the rearview mirror. Realizing this, I felt a sense of relief, rather than despair. Are we really relocating to our own house? Oliver inquired with a hint of pique. I informed him. Almost. And he agreed. We have a house waiting for us, but we can't move in until next week. Tonight, we're going to stay with my friend Julia from work. Asking, Is it because of what Grandpa and Grandma did? Camelia probed further. Words were carefully selected by me. It's because we deserve to live somewhere where everyone is treated with respect and kindness. I've been planning for us to move out for a while now, but yes, what happened today made me realize we needed to leave sooner. In a low voice, Oliver expressed his disapproval of the way they discussed us. Like we weren't important. The words he spoke slightly crushed my heart. You two are absolutely crucial, I told them. And anyone who cannot see that does not deserve to have you in their lives. Julia was quite kind when we arrived at her house. She had previously set up her guest room with a queen bed for me and an inflatable mattress for the kids. To top it all off, she had rented a movie and purchased ice cream so that we could enjoy them together. Julia drew me away while the twins got comfortable, eating their ice cream with muted excitement. A simple, "I'm proud of you," was all she said. It takes courage to set boundaries with family. It was something I regretted not doing sooner, I confessed. Before they hurt my kids like this. You're doing it now, she pointed out at the moment. And that is what matters. I experienced a bizarre whirlwind of feelings that night in the odd room, as Oliver and Camelia slept next to me. I was sad about what could have been, angry at how we were treated, and anxious about what the future held. However, a profound calmness lies beneath it all. I had finally, after a long period of doubt, stood firm in defense of my family. The following day would bring additional difficulties, reclaiming our possessions, enduring the unavoidable manipulation of our emotions, and completing the necessary paperwork for our new residence. I was sure I had made the correct choice when I saw my kids sleep soundly this evening. Our shackles were finally coming off. My request for a sick day at work was approved the following morning. I turned down Julia's offer to take the twins to her house. I stated that they needed to finish what they started. It's important for them to know we are doing this together. We knew that everyone would be home when we got at my parents' place around 10 a.m. Upon seeing the twins, my father's scowl subsided just a little bit as he answered the door. He called out to me saying, "Come to apologize for your tantrum?" "No," I responded blandly. "We have come to get our things." Once again he froze. "Your mother has been upset all night because of your dramatic exit." By saying, "I'm sorry she's upset," I meant it. I was being quite serious just then. No matter what, I never intended to cause my parents any pain. I simply had to ensure the safety of my children. But we are still moving out. Reluctantly, he moved to the side. My mom sat in the living room, her red-rimmed eyes a sign of sleep deprivation or tears. It was clear that Justin and Rachel weren't there. I inquired, "Where are Justin and Rachel?" "They brought Noah to the park," my mom said. "They thought it would be less stressful if they weren't here while you got your things." It was nice that they had shown some thought. Oliver and Camelia, I told them to go and get their rooms. Remember what we talked about in the car? Just pack what you need and love. We can replace the rest. My mom looked at me as they made their way upstairs and said, "I cannot believe you are doing this to us." "I am not harming you in any way," I reprimanded. "I am doing something for my children and myself." "Everything has been provided to you," she repeatedly stated. "A place to stay when you had nowhere to go, help with the children, emotional support during your divorce. By the way, I must admit that I have been thankful. But that does not mean my children should be treated as less valuable than Noah." "We never said that," she objected strenuously. "You didn't have to say it. Your actions made it perfectly clear." Along with us, my father began to pace. "This is about Justin, isn't it? You've always been jealous of him." Disapprovingly, I shook my head. "This is not about Justin. This is about Oliver and Camelia being moved to an unsafe basement without my knowledge or consent. This is about you explicitly stating that Noah deserves the better room simply because he is Justin's son. I was accused by my mother that you were distorting our language." "Am I?" you said, and I quote, "Our other grandson deserves the best rooms." What exactly did you mean by that, if not that my children deserve less? Not knowing what to say, she remained silent. Encouraging the twins to pack, I made my way upstairs. 2 large suitcases may contain most of their clothing. Oliver was very meticulous as he wrapped his birthday present, which included a science kit and some of his favorite books. With her athletic gear and the jewelry box her dad had given her, Camelia prepared to go. My dad was waiting at the door when we returned downstairs with the first load. He then proceeded to demand, "Where exactly are you going?" "This mysterious house you claim to have rented." I stated, We're staying with a friend until our house is ready next week, even though I wasn't obligated to tell him this. And how are you going to pay rent with your nurse's salary? He inquired with a hint of mischief in his voice. Something snapped inside me at the contemptuous tone he used. In order to meet him head-on, I set down the packages I was transporting. Dad, I make $70,000 a year as a pediatric nurse. I have excellent credit, minimal debt, and I have been saving systematically for nearly 2 years. I am fully capable of providing for my family without your help. It was clear that he was taken aback. It dawned on me that he was completely ignorant of my income and financial situation. He had taken it as a given that I was having financial difficulties since it suited his story about me. Rent is very expensive and scarce right now, my mom cut in. How did you even find a place? I've been looking for months, I informed myself. I have friends and connections. Just because I didn't tell you about my plans doesn't mean I didn't have them. The process of loading everything into my car required multiple trips. As our leaving became more real to them, my parents observed in silence. After we had gathered all of our belongings, I conducted one last run-through. My mom was pouring coffee in the kitchen, and her motions seemed robotic. Let's go, I informed her. As her eyes welled up with tears, she looked over at me. I don't understand why you are doing this. We are family. Yes, I did say that we are. And that is why this hurts so much. Family should make each other feel valued and respected. Oliver and Camelia have not felt that here for a long time. That's not true, she protested feebly. Mom, yesterday you told them they didn't deserve the same quality of accommodations as their cousin. How do you think that made them feel? Her gaze averted. We didn't mean it like that. How else could you have meant it? Not knowing what to say, she remained silent. My dad gave it one last go right before we left. This is a mistake, Eudora. You are letting your pride get in the way of what is best for your children. No, Dad, I responded. For the first time in a long time, I am putting what is best for my children ahead of everything else, including your approval. Farewells to Oliver and Camelia's grandparents were awkward. Being taught to love and appreciate these individuals who had so casually harmed them made their internal conflicts clear. Will we ever see Grandma and Grandpa again? Camelia said as we drove away. Yes, I reassured her. But things will be different. We'll visit on our terms, when we are treated with respect. A few days later, all was quiet at Julia's house. The twins' laughter and playfulness brought a sense of lightness that I hadn't witnessed in months. Meeting with the landlord to acquire the keys early allowed us to move in before the official start date, so I took a day off to finalize details for our new house. With 3 bedrooms, a little backyard, and a kitchen that was flooded with natural light, the house was just right for us. It was conveniently located near the hospital, so my commute would be shorter, and it was inside their school district, so the twins wouldn't have to transfer schools. We brought in all of our possessions on Friday. A potentially tense day became more of a celebration thanks to Julia and a number of other co-workers who came to help. By nightfall, everything was ready. The kitchen was running well, the beds were made, and there was plenty of seating in the living area. I sat alone in my new living room and finally let myself weep that night, after we ordered pizza and the twins went to bed in their separate rooms for the first time in nearly 2 years. I didn't feel sad, but I did feel some sadness. I felt relief and a bittersweet sense of accomplishment. Throughout the day, my parents' messages, ranging from furious accusations to heartfelt pleas to return home, had been ringing constantly on my phone. I had only replied once, informing them that we were okay and would get in touch when I was ready to continue the conversation. On Monday of the following week, my folks dropped by our new place without calling ahead. After dropping off the twins at school, I was getting ready to start my shift. I grudgingly allowed them inside and said, "How did you find our address?" As I did so, my dad confessed, "Your Aunt Margaret told us. She thought we should try to reconcile." As they took stock of our cozy yet unassuming new house, I brewed them a cup of coffee and watched. My mom pointed out that it was smaller than she had anticipated. "The 3 of us will be absolutely delighted," I responded. "Eudora, we want you to come home," my father remarked bluntly. "This has gone on long enough." "This is our home now," I declared with conviction. My mom stayed firm on the point that grandchildren benefit from having grandparents. And their uncle and cousin. "What they need is to be treated with respect and love," said I. "When you can provide that consistently, you are welcome to be part of their lives." "We have always loved them," my mother objected vehemently. Love is not just a feeling, Mom. It is how you treat people. It is the choices you make that show what you truly value. After nearly an hour of going through the motions of apologizing, pleading for family unity, and finally, reluctantly admitting that they might have been insensitive, they finally left. "We were unaware of the appearance from your vantage point," my dad said. "We just thought we were helping Justin and Rachel through a difficult time." "And I understand that," I responded. "But you helped them at the expense of my children's well-being and safety. That is something I cannot overlook." We were on the verge of reaching an agreement when they departed. They promised to be understanding of our new living arrangements and even invited us over for Sunday supper in 2 weeks. Even if it was just a baby step, it was progress. The word of our leaving made its way through the extended family over the course of the following several weeks. After seeing the favoritism firsthand, most people were on board with it. Particularly beloved by the twins was Aunt Margaret, who became a frequent visitor who brought baked cookies and showed true interest in their life. A promotion to the position of charge nurse on the pediatric floor, together with a substantial salary increase, came as a complete surprise to me at work. I would be able to spend more time with Oliver and Camelia if my hours were more consistent and there were less nighttime shifts. Through word of mouth inside the family, I learned that Justin and Rachel were struggling to manage without my assistance with childcare and housework. My mom, who is in her 60s now, was exhausted from taking care of our energetic infant and the house on her own. The mood was tense but polite when we returned to that Sunday dinner 2 weeks later. I think Justin and Rachel were finally humbled by the realization that I had simplified their life in ways they had before underestimated. Their haughtiness had subsided. First and foremost, Oliver and Camelia appeared happy to me than they had in a long time. Oliver's instructor saw a marked improvement in his attentiveness and engagement, while Camelia flourished in her clarinet classes, where she could practice in peace every day without worrying about being interrupted or berated. I knew I had made the correct choice when Camelia said something one night as I put her to bed. Letting out a slumbering, "I like our house, Mom," she spoke to her mother. "I feel like I can breathe here." My daughter's unassuming comment meant more to me than any other form of affirmation I could have gotten. All the hardships we endured were worthwhile because we had built a home where my children could physically and emotionally breathe easy. We returned to a drastically different life 6 months after our sudden departure. With the addition of artwork on the refrigerator, the sound of laughter, and the pleasant chaos of family life, our little rented property had transformed into a genuine home. Oliver and Camelia flourished, their self-assurance regaining as they found a home where they were appreciated and held in high regard. With my promotion to charge nurse came not just a raise in pay and improved working hours, but also additional responsibility that both tested and enriched my nursing career. I felt like I was actually flourishing, not only surviving, for the very first time in my adult life. We had developed a cautiously amicable relationship with my parents. The monthly Sunday dinners became a ritual with well-defined and, for the most part, adhered to rules. My father continued to have difficulty understanding his part, but my mother had started to perceive the bias in our family dynamic. "I've been thinking a lot about last fall," my mom stated during one of her rare solo trips to our home. "I didn't realize how much we were hurting Oliver and Camelia." I inquired, "What made you see it?" Since I was intensely interested in her development. As she sighs, her expression betrays her advanced years. "After you left, nothing was the same. Justin and Rachel stayed for another month, but without you there, I was overwhelmed trying to maintain the house and help with Noah. I started to realize how much you had been doing, how much I had taken you for granted." I took it as an apology since it was the only one I had gotten up to that point. She proceeded by saying, "Justin and Rachel started arguing all the time. About childcare, about the renovation that never seemed to end, about money. They moved back to their house before Christmas, even though the work wasn't finished." Not astonished me. Those fissures had obviously grown wider without the wall of my parents' unwavering approbation and my own practical assistance. Though my true anxiety was unfounded, I inquired, "How are they doing now?" Mainly out of politeness. "They're in couples counseling," my mom said. "Your father thinks it's nonsense, but I think it might help them. Rachel went back to work full-time and they're struggling with the child care arrangements." A tinge of sympathy persisted despite everything, and I nodded in agreement. Both of their relationships had never appeared to be firmly established, and parenting was no picnic. But my children underwent the most remarkable transformation. With the return of Oliver's innate creativity came a marked alleviation of his anxiousness. He had found success in an after-school art program, where a patient instructor had seen his potential and encouraged him to pursue it. In the spring, Camelia mentioned trying out for the soccer team, and she had already made it into the advanced band at school. Camellia brought up her grandparents one night as we sat down to do a puzzle, a peaceful tradition we had started in our new house. She addressed her mother with great care. "Mom, why do you think Grandma and Grandpa treated us differently than Noah?" As she tried to put it all together. I thought about how to respond. I think people sometimes have fixed ideas about others that make it hard for them to see clearly. Grandma and Grandpa always saw Uncle Justin as special and deserving of extra attention. When he had Noah, they transferred those feelings to him. Then Oliver brought up the fact that they are our grandparents as well. Like, yes you are, I would agree. And they do love you. They just didn't know how to show it equally or fairly. So Camellia wanted to know, is that why we left? Because they weren't fair. We left because everyone deserves to be treated with respect and kindness, I pointed out. When that wasn't happening, we needed to create our own space where we could all thrive. Oliver gave a measured nod. I like it better here anyway. At Grandma and Grandpa's house, I always felt like I was in the way. He was reassured that he would never get in the way here. This is your home, and you belong here exactly as you are. A chance opportunity presented itself in June. Thanks to my advertising and diligent saving, I was able to put a modest 3-bedroom house in our area on the market at a price that was just right for me. I went to a mortgage broker for advice and reviewed my financial situation before putting in a bid. I was pleasantly surprised when it was accepted. Leaving my parents' house with the aim of one day owning my own home was a pipe dream for me. Now, after a year and a half, it was starting to materialize. Though in need of some cosmetic upgrades, this house was in a fantastic position and had solid structural support. Above all else, it would belong to us. Their enthusiasm was infectious when I told the twins the news. Right once, they started making plans for their room decor, the front entrance, and the limited space in the backyard for a garden. "Will it be possible to bring a dog with us when we move in?" Oliver inquired with more optimism. I said, "We'll see," while still being hesitant to commit but becoming more open to the notion. We are a small family, and a dog would be the perfect addition. Buying the house unintentionally reintroduced my father to our family. He offered to go over the inspection report with me and had expertise with house buying, despite our still strained relationship. We sat at my kitchen table studying the documents when he added, "The roof has at least 5 years left, but you'll want a budget for replacing the water heater sooner rather than later." His suggestions were sensible, and I liked that he was trying to be there for me without micromanaging or passing judgment on my choices. Our dynamic underwent a minor but noticeable change. Unexpectedly he said, "I'm proud of you, Eudora," before he left. "Buying a house on your own is no small accomplishment." I was unprepared for the words that I had waited a long time to hear. "Thank you, Dad," was the only thing I could muster as a response. A hesitating, "I know I haven't always been fair," was his next statement. "Your mother and I have been talking a lot about how we handled things. I can't change the past, but I'd like to do better going forward." Even though it was incomplete, my proud and stubborn father's apology was significant. If he asked me if I would like it, I would honestly say yes. Oliver and Camellia were enrolled in school on the day of the house closing. When they returned home, I photographed the keys to show them, but I signed the documents alone. I broke down in tears as I stood in the deserted living room of our new home, which was now my home. Just 2 years ago, I was a mother who had just gone through a divorce, with no clear direction in life, and who relied on the conditional support of my parents. I had finally achieved home ownership, been promoted in my job, and most importantly, could provide my children the loving home they deserved. The trip had its share of difficult moments when I had to face inconvenient facts about my loved ones and myself. I had to figure out that protecting my children sometimes meant removing myself from poisonous environments, that setting limits was not a sign of weakness, but of strength, and that my value was not based on how other people saw me. With the support of our friends, co-workers and even my parents, we moved into our new house on a beautiful June Saturday. As we set up furniture, emptied boxes and ordered pizza for all the helpers, the mood was festive. When it was only my parents and me on the back porch that night, we watched Oliver and Camellia play in the yard. My mom whispered, "This is a good home. You've done well, Eudora." I responded with an unqualified, "Thank you," accepting the comment without reservation. I thought back on the path that had led us to this place as the sun dipped below the horizon on our first day here. The hurt I felt on that November day, when my kids were thought less valuable than their cousin, turned out to be the driving force for some good things happening. The most catastrophic betrayals can sometimes pave the way for the most essential escapes. What appeared to be the end, the day we gathered our belongings and departed from my parents' house, actually marked the start. A newfound sense of dignity, the ability to support oneself and the people I care about, and the opportunity to teach my children the value of standing up for what's right. I had come to understand that family was about more than simply blood or duty. It was all about choosing to appreciate people for who they really were, being consistently kind to them, and respecting one another. By welcoming those who treated us with the respect we merited, my children and I were able to build a healthy and supportive family unit of our own. A profound calm washed over me as I put the twins to sleep that night in their own bedrooms, in our own home. Finally, we were on solid ground after surviving the storm. If you found this story inspiring, please subscribe to hear more true tales of family triumphs and give the video a thumbs up if it touched you. Also, I want to know if you've ever had to choose between two equally bad options in order to keep your loved ones safe. Put your tales in the comment section. I want to hear them. Never forget that getting up and making the life you and your kids deserve might at times be the most courageous thing you can do. Much obliged for your time.